Hello, Margaret. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Wonderful. Thank you. And hello to those of you who have joined us live or are watching this on a recorded basis. Thank you for joining us for this Tuesday talk. I like to cover a couple of housekeeping items for those of you who are joining us right now live. We do encourage audience participation. So if you're a first timer joining one of these live webinars, on Zoom, there's a Q&A button on your computer screen, whether it's at the top or bottom, however Zoom is set up, Q&A button, and you can type in a question as Margaret and I are visiting over the course of the next 30 minutes. And we really encourage audience participation. It really allows the conversation to just flow so much smoother. So don't hesitate to type in a question. You can even click a little anonymous button if you don't want to know disclose to the rest of the group here who you are. You can certainly click that anonymous button. But anyway, don't be bashful. Go ahead and type in a question. We love audience participation. Today for this Tuesday talk, I am interviewing our president and CEO, Margaret Haynes. Margaret, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just going to start with a very, whenever you and I do these interviews, I like to start with a very broad, like, State of the Union. How are things going as of today? Which, by the way, to put a timestamp on it, it's June 11th, 2024. So we're midway through the year.
Yeah.
We've got this, you as the president and CEO, you've got your job is really strategy and you're thinking ahead and you're thinking of the future. So if you would please go ahead and give our listeners just kind of like a status update on how things are going as of today at Right at Home.
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you for that opportunity. So I could go on and on and on. So I'll try to be brief, but I would say that, yeah, it's hard to believe we're already in almost the middle of June and through almost the first half of the year. But Right at Home as an overall brand is having another really, really strong year. And so, we set out this year wanting to hit some different goals. We're on track for the different goals that we set for ourselves through strategic planning and just how we want to grow as a network. But one of the key ones that we had set was this goal around hitting a set number of service hours just domestically in the US. When we look at a single service week, hitting what we called a rally cry 450. And the reason it was so significant is that really represents the highest number of hours in a single service week that across the US we've provided care to individuals and ever as a brand, right? So we started as a brand in 95 when Alan Hager started the very first Right at Home. And then starting in 2000 is when we started to franchise. And we've tracked the growth of the network over that time period. And it's a beautiful graph as we look at the growth of the brand since it started, something that is very much business class worthy in terms of textbook worthy of how you would want to see a business grow. And then to surpass this 450,000 hours of care provided in a single week just in the US. So I'm not even counting the other 5 countries that we're in, was such a big celebration. So we got to celebrate it as a network a couple of weeks ago. And what makes us so excited about that is that equates to lives that we're touching in a really meaningful way. And we talk about our mission statement is to improve the quality of life for those we serve. And so when we think about that mission statement, it's not just the clients that are receiving the care in their local communities, but it's the caregivers that are employed by the franchise owners. It's the office staff in the franchise owner's office themselves that's keeping all the balls in the air and doing the scheduling and matching up these clients with caregivers that can support them. It's the referral sources that we're engaging with, at the local level. The franchisees are doing at the local level to identify individuals that can benefit from the services. And it's the families. It's the families of those loved ones that are receiving the care that we're able to either give them some respite or give them some peace of mind, all those sorts of things. And what really makes this industry as a whole just such a great industry to be a part of, not only for the opportunity that it presents as a business owner, but more importantly, quite frankly, the opportunity it presents in terms of really making an impact on other people's lives in a way that's different than some other ways that you could, be owning a business. And I just came back from 2 different industry conferences. and the energy and the positivity. We have a lot of tailwinds in our industry pushing us forward. That's not to say we don't have some headwinds as well, but there really is so much opportunity in front of us as we think about the aging population, and there's just so much demand for our services. So it's a fun time to be a part of home care.
Okay, thank you for that, and I'm glad that you mentioned it. The recent conferences that you have been to, and I know this is a similar experience that I have had with recent conferences that I have attended. Of those conferences that you have attended, and in even recent discussions, how big of a presence does technology, innovation, artificial intelligence? These are questions that I get often in my role. I'm just looking for your perspective on, as you are thinking ahead of, into the future, how do those three pieces really play a part in the future of home care?
Yeah, so technology, innovation, and it's specifically AI, so artificial intelligence, they are all over, top of mind, front and center, main stage at all the conferences and just in the conversations that I'm having with industry leaders. So the two conferences I just went to in the last 3 weeks are broad healthcare conferences. So there, it's not just around home care, but it's also home health, hospice, palliative care. So thinking broader about that post-acute healthcare ecosystem. And in all of them, we're talking about how important technology is. We know that we've got to lean into technology, not only to continue to drive efficiency within operations, but also to help support clients in their home. So, there's so much innovation that's happening around how can we bring things in to supplement that human interaction that will always need to be there. But we know that there's not as many caregivers. So our supply, when we talk about supply and demand, the supply is our caregivers, right? That can actually go into the homes and help care for these individuals. That is being outpaced by the growth in the demand. So we know that we've got to find other ways that can come alongside that caregiver and still help us support individuals wanting to age at home or wherever they call home. So innovation and technology is all very much top of mind, as is artificial intelligence. So that's something from a technology and innovation perspective that has come in very quickly and is progressing faster than probably anyone even imagined. And so we need to understand that. And so we've been spending time as a brand thinking about, okay, how do we leverage what's coming with AI, understand it, be able to use it responsibly in a way that then our franchise network can also leverage it, because there's a responsible way to use AI, and then there's some scary things out there that could go awry. So how do we make sure that we're thinking about that? And we've always thought about technology and innovation and AI being a piece of what kind of folds up underneath those two pieces. So much so that we intentionally carved out a team coming out of our strategic planning 2 years ago. So coming into 2023, we said, we've got to set aside just a team that all they think about is what's going on from innovation around the business model and innovation around technology. And then recognizing AI when we went through strategic planning last summer, recognizing AI now was kind of hitting the radar for everybody. We said we need to carve out a resource there that is going to, from the corporate office perspective, start to understand the pros and cons and what it means to really leverage this very powerful new way of doing business, because we have to stay up with the times. But we don't have to be bleeding edge. We don't want to put a lot of risk out there, but we do see a ton of opportunity for us as individual business owners in the home care space, thinking about an individual franchisee as well as us at the corporate office and how we're supporting the franchise network to build those sustainable, profitable businesses. How can we leverage the technology in the best way to drive the outcomes and ultimately continue to help those franchisees build their businesses and live out that mission, which is what we're so passionate about.
Okay, awesome. All right, so I'm kind of jumping all over the place here. Another question that just came to mind with the audience who is watching this right now, which the audience being, these are people that are interested in joining the Right at Home system and becoming Right at Home franchise owners. So can you offer some pieces of, I was going to say a piece of advice, and if you want to offer multiple, that's great. I don't think there's a single person that I've talked to that said, I want to join the ride home system and I just want to be average. I just want to do just the bare bones basics and just kind of cruise along. No one has ever said that to me.
Yeah.
So maybe some pieces of advice that you can offer as, the president and CEO of Right at Home, like, what does a person need to do to really thrive in this business? What should they focus on right when they join the Right at Home system, initially, and even thinking about long term, a question I get often, like, what does a really thriving franchisee look like? So if you could describe that person, I think that would be really helpful to the people that are listening who are thinking about joining the Right at Home system.
Yeah. So first and foremost, for those listening that are thinking about joining, when I think about business in general and the idea of, gosh, going into business, you may have worked for somebody in the past and now you want to own your own business. There is not a better way to set yourself up for potential success. Again, knowing that it still is going to come down to you as an owner, but coming into a franchise network, your odds of being successful are much greater than if you just go out on your own. And there's, article after article written about that. And the reason being is because you're coming into a brand, you're coming into a network that has a ton of experience. So when you think about joining a franchise network, first and foremost, top of mind should be, how do I just immerse myself into this new network, this new group that is there to, at the end of the day, we're just here to help you build a strong, sustainable, profitable business. So from day one, how can you be a sponge and really learn and be curious about how to run a successful business and all those ingredients that go into it, because you've got a path of a ton of people standing behind you that have already gone down this path and can tell you best practices and everything. Us at the corporate office have helped so many people build really strong businesses. So I think that first initial, once you sign on that line, is saying, okay, now how can I take advantage of everything that's there? And taking advantage of that means being really engaged, right? So being engaged and excited, inquisitive about how to start the business, but even 10 years, 15 years, 20 years down the road, continuing to lean into what is this franchise network. Because I can tell you that the relationships that have been built across our franchise network and with us at the corporate office are some of the most amazing and meaningful relationships. Because I think we attract individuals that are really passionate about helping others. It's just part of being in the home care industry because it's a 24/7, 365 kind of business. But also just recognizing that we don't compete against each other. It's we're all here to help each other be successful. And we know a rising tide raises all boats. And so when I think about our most successful franchise owners, they're engaged from the minute they start with the brand until the minute they decide that they are ready to take this asset that they've built and do something with it. When they're ready to kind of retire, go sit on the beach, whatever that next chapter is for them. And between that, though, they're sharing not only their experience, but learning from others' experience and continuing to have that curiosity and having a mentality of growth, right? How do I continue to grow my business? Because we also know in business, with the minute a business stops growing, it's actually declining. So we have lots of resources that will help you throughout the journey, regardless of how long you've been in the industry, that can help you continue to grow your business. And it's so fun for us to watch our franchisees be successful in growing their business and making a mark in their local communities.
Okay. So a question came in while you were answering that last question. It says, when you talk about being engaged, what are the opportunities to become engaged?
Yeah. So I could talk for hours and hours and hours about that. So let me just highlight a few. So we certainly have every week we do what we call a Takeoff Tuesday. And that is a webinar where we bring expertise, whether it's outside speakers, maybe a software solution or something that, we're leveraging as a network to help you know how to use that more. Internal, from a corporate staff perspective, we've got subject matter experts that are sharing information about what you could be doing to increase referral sources or increase caregiver hires, those sorts of things. But we also showcase our franchise owners because we have such amazing franchise owners and they have great ideas and thoughts. And we actually get quite frankly, we get our best ideas from our franchise network.
Mhm.
But so we have every Tuesday an opportunity for you and members of your staff as a franchisee that can tune in based on the topics and hear about best practices and things that you can do to help continue to improve your business. And even if you can't tune in for that Tuesday, we record them so you can go access them at any time. So that's one way, is just on a weekly basis, attending the Takeoff Tuesdays. We also have a weekly publication we call Weekly Update. Just reading that and perusing it will give you great engagement.
Yep.
But we also have things like annual meetings. Every year we have an annual meeting where we bring the entire global network together, share a lot of best practice, do a lot of celebrating. And then we have what we call performance groups. And performance groups is yet another way in which we have groups of 10 to 12, typically franchise owners, that act as like a board of directors to each other. They have someone from the corporate staff that helps facilitate those discussions. And they look at their business both from a financial and operational KPI perspective on a quarterly basis and have conversations about that. So 2 times a year, they get together face to face for 2 days for a time to just work on their business versus in their business. And then the other quarters, they're doing Zoom calls like this and talking about what's going on with their business and sharing best practices. That is just 3 or 4 quick off the top of my head ways in which you can stay engaged throughout your life cycle as a right-to-home owner.
Okay, got it. And so I'm going back to something that you said earlier. And I want you to elaborate on it further. So you said it comes down to you as an owner. So I'm pretty sure that I know what you mean by that, but I think our listeners really understanding what you meant by making that statement, because I think it's a pretty powerful statement. It's something to call attention to, because it really does come down to you as the franchise owner on which path you want to take. So you can talk a little bit more about what you meant by that.
Yeah, and I think it's a little bit tied to that analogy that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink, right? And so it has to do with understanding what motivates you. And as a business owner, obviously when you're first starting out, you're going to have to wear lots of hats. And then as your business grows, you can start to add team members and start to kind of delegate and align what needs to be done to grow this business in different ways. But at the end of the day, we can give you the right processes, procedures, business insight, all of that coaching, guidance. But at the end of the day, it's the owner that's going to set the tone within their business. They're going to set the culture within their business and ultimately be executing on all these things that we have to set you up for success. At the end of the day, it still comes down to that franchise owner to be able to execute and or to build a team that's able to execute and motivate that team to be able to execute and to build a culture where individuals want to come work for that local right at home, for that local owner. Because at the end of the day, people like to do business with people that they have a relationship with or that they have a positive experience with. So it comes down to, at the end of the day, we can give you all the tools in the world, but it will be upon you as an owner to take that. And I think it's to the tenacity that needs to come with being a business owner, right? Being the business owner, you're kind of calling the shots.
Mhm.
And so no more as it maybe you're in one department, you got to kind of think about a lot of different things and different aspects. We're here to help you think through all that. But you have to have that tenacity. And some days are going to be really great and you're going to be like, oh my gosh, this is the best decision I've ever made.
Yeah.
And you're probably going to have some days when it's like, oh my goodness, what in the world have I just done? Right. But it's that tenacity, it's that drive that are all key elements that make a good leader, that are going to make a good business owner that says on those bad days, okay, it was a bad day. It was a rough day. It was a tough day. People were calling off. We work the problem and tomorrow's a new day. And we come back and we keep motivated on what we're there to do, which is at the end of the day, you get in business because you want to grow a business that has a great impact and obviously turns into a great asset for you as the owner.
Yes, and I think understanding franchise business model, a misconception quite often is like, oh, it's part of a franchise, so they're going to do those things for me, which could be farther from the truth. You said we've got all these tools, all of these resources, all of this support. Those are the things that we are going to provide. But at the end of the day, it's your business. You are the business owner. So it's up to you to on which path you want to go and how truly engaged you want to be.
Yeah.
Okay. So shifting gears yet again,
Okay.
and this is a question that I ask often, so I'm not going to ask it. I'm going to ask it in a different way. Caregiver recruitment and retention. It's a common topic that we talk about during the education and approval process. That we talk about often in our franchise system, but kind of branching off of that a little bit. How does Right at Home ensure the quality and reliability of its caregiving services across each location? So I'm looking for, like, how on earth can we ensure, like when we're providing services to a client in their home, that it's consistent from location to location, that the caregivers know like what they're supposed to do as a caregiver. So talk a little bit about how we go about doing that and to ensure kind of that consistency and reliability from location to location.
Yeah, really great question. And certainly, the way in which we do that is through the tools that we provide, right? So we're going to, from the minute that someone wants to come into the Right at Home network and own a home care company, you're going to start through this, what we call kind of a right start journey, a right start plan that's going to set you up for success of actually getting your office up and running and then, hiring your first caregivers, all of that. So we're going to spend time prepping you around what are the right ways in which you can identify caregivers. So what tools can you use to go out there and find out who wants to apply and getting them applying, and what are the job descriptions? What are ways in which you can set up your job description to attract the individuals that you're looking for? But then more importantly, once they come in and you decide this is someone I would hire, how do you actually train them? Because at the end of the day, it's the franchise owner or someone in their office that has that role as you continue to grow that is going to be responsible for training those caregivers in terms of how to provide the care. Now, in many states, the caregivers have certifications that they'll either come with, or there's resources to get the certification, where it's an HHA certification or a CNA certification. But we'll give you the tools to know how can you set those caregivers up for success. And then we talk about what is that experience? So not only the caregiver experience, engagement with your office and what are best practices there, but what's the engagement with the client? So when you're identifying a caregiver to work with a client, how can you look at that combination and make sure the caregiver has the resources, the training that they need to have in order to go care for that particular client based on what services that particular client is looking for? So again, it's all the policies and procedures and tools that we'll give you to help execute to then provide a quality service in your local market. And then there's best practices around, first introduction of the caregiver to the client and 90-day checkups on the care plans to make sure that nothing's changed with the client and the caregivers feel supported. All of that are all the things that will help train you on as you start to get ready to start your business.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Question came in. I'm going to read it to you. How do you ensure that the franchisee upholds the Right at Home standards?
Yeah, so certainly there are the brand standards are something that we put very forefront to all the franchisees. There are certain ways in which we can monitor what standards are being followed in terms of if we see where a standard is not being followed, then we'll go work with that individual franchise owner to work on a corrective plan, right? We also have business coaches. So the business coaches are constantly engaging with the franchisee and talking through how is their business performing, what are some key metrics around that may give an indication if something's not being followed. And we also go out and visit offices, right? So once you get your business up and running, your Right Start coach will come out. I want to say it's within 3 months of that, opening your doors to just check and see, okay, we talked about what the standards are and how to run your business. Let's do a check-in and just make sure everything's kind of executing the way it is, the way it's supposed to be. So if there are any corrections, we can again kind of adjust that before, all, bad habits start and all those sorts of things. But at the end of the day, we've tried to make sure that there's clarity on both sides of what those brand standards are, and then executing against those. If there's a time when a franchisee might get sideways or off the path, I should say, a little bit from a standard, then we work with them to bring them back right away.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
Right. So during the education and approval process that many of our listeners are going through right now, there's a part of the process where they reach franchisee validation, where we ask them to pick up the phone and call some of our existing franchise owners. What are some great questions that potential franchise owners can be asking our existing franchise owners, in your opinion?
Yeah, so anytime I get the opportunity to talk to any of our prospects, as they're moving through the process, that's one of my first questions to them is, have you actually picked up the phone and tell me about your conversations? Because I'm hoping that as you go through that journey, you catch one of our franchise owners on a great day where they're like, oh my gosh, this is the best thing. You catch them on a good day where it's like, yeah, it's good. Business is good. And what's kind of, what does that look like? But honestly, I hope you catch them on a bad day and where they may say, hey, hair on fire, I just need to call you back, because that is a true reflection of what it is like to be a business owner. And we're certainly not looking to sell anybody on home care, to sell anybody on the Right at Home brand. We want to make sure through this whole process that you're going through that your aspirations and desires and what you want to do are in alignment with what we see as success in our network, and what is that combination. So I hope when you're on the phone with them, you're asking them things that are top of mind for you, of how are you dealing with, do you have a caregiver shortage, and what does that look like in your market, and what things have you done? If you had to do it over again, is there anything that you would have done differently? Or what's the one thing that you didn't know that you wish you would have known before you came? Those are the kinds of questions that I would be asking, because those franchise owners can give you a very unique perspective, different than what all of the subject matter experts that you will engage with from the corporate office will give you through your journey of making this decision of whether or not to join the Right at Home network. So it's just a great opportunity. I love that, you can call anybody, right? We can give you some suggestions, but you can call anybody on the list. And that openness, I think, is what really creates a strong culture for our network and shows our commitment in building really good relationships with our franchisees.
Okay, perfect. All right, so we only have a couple minutes left, Margaret. Is there
Gosh.
anything? I know time flies when you're having fun. How often have I said that at the end of the call?
It does go.
Anything that we haven't talked about, anything that you would like to mention before we part ways here?
I guess just because I've been on the road and doing some things with our national association. So the one thing I'll just talk about as well is, as an industry, it's just a very collaborative industry. So we've talked about some of the collaboration uniquely within Right at Home, but we also, so I sit on the Home Care Association of America, or HCAOA is the acronym, which is the industry association for our side of the business, for home care, where primarily it's family funded. And it is a recognition that in each local office, in each local state, being active in your state and your local community is so important to be able to advocate for our industry, because our industry, we have a bright light shining on us right now, because coming up, quite frankly, out of the pandemic and the value that people are seeing. They knew it before, but they didn't know that they knew it, right? Until the pandemic kind of highlighted, gosh, people really do want to age in their home. So we've got so much opportunity in front of us, and we need to continue to be telling that story, not only with referral sources, but with our elected officials, so that we continue to move healthcare forward. And that's part of what the association does. So you would be joining an industry that's really built on relationships, with so much opportunity sitting in front of us that we just have to grasp.
Awesome. Okay, great. Thank you so much, Margaret. I appreciate you taking the time to do this. I know our listeners do as well. So thanks again.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
All right. Have a great day. Goodbye.
You too. Bye-bye.